Hello, welcome to Good Games Well Played, episode 159. I'm Clint, aka JCM. With us this week is Isli.
Yo.
And Messiah.
Hello.
And it's been quite a week. We'll get into the drama with Helldivers later on. But we'll kick it off with a Xbox Game Showcase was announced for June. And apparently there's going to be just a ton of stuff there. I mean, I imagine it's probably going to be like, it's June, so it's going to be their E3 kind of showcase, right? So it'll probably be more Indiana Jones, maybe the Starfield DLC preview, perhaps. And then probably a bunch more Hellblade 2 again. Like, I feel like that game's like been shown. That's like the, what was the previous game where it was like, I think it was a Sony title where it's like, stop showing us the game.
I feel like, I mean, every company does this, and it's always a weird game where you're just sick of it.
Yeah.
Honestly, Last of Us for Sony.
Yeah, it's like you're excited for it at the beginning, and then 30 trailers in, you're just like, I don't give a shit about this anymore. You've shown me the whole game at this point.
Yeah.
Skyrim still.
Right. But yeah, a bunch of stuff that'll be there. So look forward to that. That's on June 9th. So I'll be curious to see what they announce. Obviously, probably a bunch of Blizzard stuff, and well, maybe not a bunch of Blizzard stuff, like Blizzard's output's necessarily that high, but we'll see. And then for the third anniversary of Returnal, Housemarque announced a graphic novel and art book that's going to be coming out for it. So I'm looking forward to that. It'll be released on the 22nd of October. The spin-off graphic novel is titled Fallen Asteria. You can pre-order on Amazon. It's $20. And then the art book, I'm trying to see, the art to Returnal comes the same day. That's $50. So I'm not sure how quick I'll jump on that, but I am curious about that graphic novel.
That's interesting. I wonder how you do a spin-off of something that's like a psychological game. I know there's ways to. That's just kind of, that has interesting potential.
The way I guess they could do it would be like, because like obviously when you start the game on your first run, it isn't Celine's first run, right? Like, because you find your corpse, that's how you find the gun. So potentially you could tell like, but she has no recollection of the previous cycles when you start the game, and then she does as you go through and keep playing. Like, she'll have memories and yada yada, like, oh, this again, and yada yada, tormenting me, it's the same but different, that kind of stuff. So I guess you could do the first couple cycles, but I don't know how you would.
Maybe this is just my shitty memory. I can't remember in the game, did they ever establish whether she was actually on an alien planet or whether it was all in her head and this was just like her coping with the car accident? Like, I honestly can't remember if they established what one was real or if they left it ambiguous.
That's never said. There's just people think like it could be or it couldn't be, but there's no like heavy one direction or the other.
Yeah, so I'm like, yeah, if the space portion is real, the spinoff could be pretty easy. But if it's really just like a car accident, the spinoff is like a weird concept.
It's funny because like the description just reads like, well, that's just the game. It's like, okay, yeah, you crash, yada yada. But I'm curious. Again, yeah, like, is this just going to be a bunch of cycles beforehand? And is there something that wipes her memory? Because, again, at the start of the game, she doesn't recall any of the previous cycles. So it's not even like when she, spoilers, when she dies after she escapes and comes back, like she has the memory of that, but she doesn't once you boot up. But anyway, so I'll be curious to see what they do there. But yeah, that'll be interesting. Art book could be pretty cool too. I'm curious. They'll show previews of that. But then we also have the announcement for Microsoft Game Pass for the month of May, the Wave 1 lineup, including the Little Kitty Big City Tomb Raider Definitive Edition and A Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. And the one thing I'm curious about is it doesn't say if it's the Brother, A Tale of Two Sons remake, which I believe came out in February, at least on Steam, right? Because it says like Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, so it's the definitive version of that, but it doesn't say Tale of Two Sons remake. So I was like, is it just the OG? Do you get the remake of that like for free if you have the original one? Like, I'm not sure how that upgrade path works, but it doesn't clarify in this article. But those are those games. And then there was a big patch for Fallout 76 this week as well, because a lot of people have gone back to that game because of the show, myself included. It just removed a ton of bugs. Big old chunky patch list you can read. But of course, if you're new to the game, then you don't necessarily know any of these things, and some of them are platform specific, so it's might not even apply to you depending on what platform you play on.
It makes sense how the show skyrocketed the game back to like top of the charts, but it's also kind of funny because that game probably benefited more from the show than any other thing in the advertising for the game itself.
Yeah, especially because they've been doing so many updates to it over the past. Like Todd even said, Todd Howard was had an interview with Kind of Funny, and he had mentioned like how it's actually like, you know, it's been really popular. It's like a sleeper hit, like as far as like how the active community on there after all the updates they've been pushing to the game since launch, and it's just, but no one really talks about it. And I've heard, you know, anecdotally from folks who returned to that game even before the show came out. They're like, oh yeah, I went back to 76, which I haven't played since, you know, my initial run at launch. And they talk about like all the changes and the new like free content that keeps getting added to the game and how they're enjoying that. But yeah, big patch there. Yeah, I'm curious to see how quickly a lot of the Nexus mods get fixed after the next gen, quote unquote, next gen patch for Fallout 4, because that really borked a lot of stuff, and we'll see.
What happens? Do you know what happens in 76 if you get a private server, play the game, and then stop paying for it? Do you like lose your progress or anything?
No, your progress is there. It's just when you go back in, you can only join public servers.
But progress is saved to like character side, not server side, or something like that.
Well, I mean, it could be both. I mean, or also just online.
I don't know how the game actually like saves and works. That's why I was curious.
Yeah, no, you just will have to load into, because like when you load into a server, it just picks one. Like it's not always the same server. It's like, because I went to one where it's like, okay, I loaded in, here's my base. Mm-hmm. And then when I loaded in later, it's like, oh, well, unfortunately, the server you joined, that location already has a base on it from someone who's currently playing. So your camp has been refunded for free. You can put it down someplace else. So it's like, it just depends on what server is available at the time. And because there's so many people playing, like the odds of you being on the same one's going, like you can join your friends if they're on a particular server, but no, it's just If you either have a free one, not a free one, you either have a solo one or not, you won't lose your character progress.
Okay, that makes sense.
I do know, I'm not sure how it works with like, because you can customize stuff on the server, private server for like, yeah, you can do your own custom like settings. I'm assuming that disables achievements and trophies, but yeah, so I guess that would be different. Like if you had like custom settings you were used to, like, I'm not sure if the entire swath of options is available. Let's say like maybe enemies do more damage, but they don't have quite as much health or something, like you do make it more like Souls-like or something like that. Then it's like, okay, now you go back to a regular, you know, public server. It's like you don't have those there, so maybe it feels different to play. But no, you won't lose anything. Because yeah, if you were to play it and we were like going there and play together, I'd want to like, because you get like, you can do a free month of the Fallout Prime or whatever it's called, and it's like
First.
Yeah, Fallout First, and it's like, okay, you can just use that month, have a free, you know, private server, and just play.
I'm kind of falling into that, like the hype from the TV show, or makes me want to try 76.
Yeah, I'll talk about it more when we get in what we're playing, but yeah, I feel like maybe having a private server would be the best way to go if you were to try it. And then if I was just like join up and like we were running around, like, you know, do stuff together, and you could like start straight at level 20, which is nice, but which I'd say
start from scratch.
Yeah,
we can talk about that when you play it.
Yeah, but then outside of that, PlayStation had an update. PS5 had an update where now you can invite your friends into a game and AFK. Like basically, you just send them like a hyperlink. You can text them like a link to like, hey, join up in the session, so you don't have to wait for them to be online to actually go into the notification and yada yada and click on it. So that's a nice little feature, because yeah, it's always kind of annoying. It's like, okay, I'm booting up. It's like, all right, let me send you the invite. And then I have to, because if you're offline, you have to like scroll down, find their name. And even some games like don't let you do that. Like they only show people who are online on the list. It's like, I can't invite until you're actually online, which is annoying. But yeah, I like being able to do that. Just send a text link and be like, hey, come join the session. So that's pretty cool. And then the other bit of news I got here is, sorry, I skipped it over earlier. I'm trying to go back. I saw someone play Skyrim with I don't know if you saw this, but there was like a Twitch chat like voice mod. I think it might be, I don't know if it's like a text to speech, but like the mod allows the Twitch chat to like type in things that the NPCs will say, but it sounds like it must be
which game?
Skyrim.
Oh, okay.
So like the guy runs up to a guard and the guard's like, hey, I heard about this guy over there. He's got a huge dong. Like you just, whatever the chat typed in, like just ridiculous shit. But like it sounded like such a funny mod. And like, but again, it must be like just a really good text to speech, because it doesn't sound like, it sounds very much like a game, what Skyrim would sound like, but it doesn't sound like a bad, like when Twitch reads it like a chat donation or something like that. It doesn't sound like that. It sounds good. So it's like not like, oh, record the thing and then they'll say it, like have an audio recording. But it's a pretty good mod. And I imagine it's probably like using some sort of maybe AI voice thing.
I was gonna say it's probably an AI voice mod or something.
Yeah, like it just scrubs all the dialogue that's in the game to generate the voices of whoever did them, yada yada. So, but it was pretty funny. I was like, these are the kind of mods I like integrate Twitch chat in some weird way into an old game. Like I like the Skyrim or the Elden Ring mods where it's like every time I say a word, it spawns meteors down from the sky or something, or every time I do just ridiculous shit. That was a pretty funny mod. Other than that, the other thing is that so Sony made it a requirement to link your Helldivers account on PC to a PlayStation account. And typically, previously, their user agreement thing said, like, is it required to link my PlayStation account in order to play a PC game? And it's like, no, it's not required. But they changed it for Helldivers 2. And so for the folks who are like on PC in regions that have the PlayStation Network, it's like, just fucking do it, man. Like, stop review bombing Helldivers. It wasn't their decision. It was Sony that did it. Mm-hmm. And it's not like, because it's not like even when they fix it, if they change it, it's not like you're going to go back and change your reviews. You just review bomb them because you're just so upset. It's like, how many times?
I will say, Helldivers, the devs told people to review bomb the game. Like in their Discord, there were posts saying like, yeah, the negative reviews give us leverage to argue against Sony.
Yeah, I know that because they say I'll get there, but the people, the people who are like, it's dumb because like how many times do you sign up for games like, oh, Ubisoft, you got to sign into your Ubi account even if you have it on Steam, yada yada. It's like, whatever, stop fucking whining. The people who don't have PlayStation in their region, like the PlayStation Network, that I understand. Like the folks who are playing, but now they can't play anymore because there is no local PSN. And they might have to like VPN to, another location or something. Mm-hmm. That I understand. But they're like, for the vast majority, I'm just super upset. It's like, come on, man. Just
also, it discredits the negative. They can say in their Discord all they want, like, hey, the negative reviews help us leverage and stuff like that. But if the negative reviews are just like, this is bullshit, and it drowns out the actual legitimate like concerns in the reviews that say, hey, I can't play this game anymore. Like I paid for this game. I've put hours into this game. I've bought content for this game and I can't access that anymore. But it's all drowned out with like stupid bullshit review bombing. So it's like, mm-hmm. they were probably like, hey, if you have an actual concern, go voice it, because the negative reviews, and then all the fucking incels that have nothing better to do with their lives are like, oh, that's cue for me to go review bomb the game. I'm going to make a bunch of stupid ghost accounts and IP bullshit. And it's like, leave it to the people. There's plenty of people who will give it a negative review now because they can't access the game. That's a legitimate concern. So if they take those reviews to Sony, it's better leverage.
Yeah, because I'm like, when I look at the number of the okay, Helldivers 2 boss, as 150,000 negative reviews flood Steam. I'm like, 150,000 people have nothing else to do except go bombard this. Is like, yeah, how many of those are fake? Mm-hmm. Especially because it wasn't like there was that many. It outweighed so many of the positive reviews. So clearly it's just a bandwagon bullshit, right? Like, there's no way you could have, like, if you didn't review the game positively and now you're just jumping on it because you're fucking got nothing better to do to post a negative review, I'm like, that's not a legit review. If you had posted a positive review and you changed that positive review to like a negative review, okay, you're voicing your opinion, you already played the game previously, still ridiculous. But again, the people who can't play it because they're in a country that doesn't have a PlayStation Network, like that's legit. And they even said the CEO was saying, on a serious note, or sorry, I skipped that. He's like, is this the moment to tweet what? You guys don't have phones? like the Diablo mobile game. But he's like, on a serious note, we are talking solutions with PlayStation, especially for non-PSN countries. Your voice has been heard, and I'm doing everything I can to speak for the community, but I don't have the final say. So yeah, it's like it's a thing. It's like, because you can't really review bomb Sony if you're upset about a change. You can only review bomb the product, and it's not their decision, yada yada, which is why it's so weird to review bomb like this. And again, for all the stuff that's happened in games recently, like, this isn't Escape from Tarkov bad. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is legit reason to review bomb something. Or if someone said, hey, we're not going to do, pay to win content, and then they do it, or we're not going to do XYZ, and then they do it. That's legit reason. Like, when they go back on their word. This is just like, yeah, Sony made a dumb decision, but it's like, for the majority of players, who fucking cares?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just fix it for the people who can't access it. But yeah, it's just so weird. And I'm like, you guys, man, at least if maybe like if the reviews were in universe, like, I just want to kill bugs for democracy, but I can't now.
Right.
Like, that would be kind of funny. But again, it's like, come on. And you're not going to go back and delete all those negative reviews. But anyway, it's just such a weird situation. Because I get it from like, yeah, Sony, what are you doing? And then like Sony changed the wording in their user agreement, whatever, to say some games. It's like they went back and changed it. It's like, okay, we caught you doing that. But yeah, it's like, why do it now? It's so weird.
It was obviously a very stupid decision, and I feel like somebody in that meeting was like, hey, what about the people that don't have a PSN account or have access to a PSN account? And some other idiot was just like, it's that meme where it's like all the meeting people look at that person and throw them out the window. It's like, that is exactly what happened. Like, somebody voiced this concern and somebody else was just like, fuck them. And now it's like an issue. Like, why even do this? Why even make this decision?
That's what I was curious about. Is it's been out for what, a month, 2 months, something like that. So why flip the switch now for the requirements? That part seemed weird to me. Of like, was this a conscious decision where they wanted people without accounts to get the game, like it, have everything spread, and then turn on accounts such that everyone was required to, be integrated into the ecosystem? Or was this just some dumb board decision that no one really fully understood? And I feel like it's the latter. Like, maybe it was malicious, but I feel like it was probably just a stupid decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, the only thing I can think of is, again, and I'm not, this isn't even necessarily 100%, but it's like, the only thing I think of is like, okay, if you link it to your PSN, it allows for greater control of the community, I suppose. Like, if someone, like, for bad apples, I guess, like, because if you have to link it to a Steam, kind of like how Twitch has that, you gotta, get your phone, link your phone number to chat, like to prevent people from spamming, racist and bad shit and whatever. And it's like, okay, if they link their PSN and they cheat and they ban them, okay, you can also alternatively ban them on their PSN account, I guess. And then it's like, okay, you just have to make another one, but you can make as many sub accounts as you want for any PSN. So I'm like, that seems like a weird, if that's the reason, for like, just to, quote unquote, strengthen the community, but I don't know. It is so weird. Like, why now? And why even do it? Because, like, yeah, I saw, like, I guess it's been delisted from like over 100 countries on Steam because of they don't have PlayStation access in those regions. But yeah, again, it's just such a weird decision by Sony, and the majority of people who are reviewing them, like, aren't the people that are actually affected. Like, it's just so silly, but yeah, just so strange on both sides. I don't know.
Drama for the sake of drama. I feel like it's gonna get into conspiracy theory at some point. Like, this was scripted of some kind. Like, somebody at Sony was like, yeah, this is a really horrible decision, but we can go back on it and be like, hey, look, we fixed it. Aren't we such good guys? And hey, now this game has been in the media, and aren't you interested in playing it now? Like, what?
People will introduce new Slurm, and
I'll
people
say,
hate it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's unfortunate for the people that can't play the game anymore now because it was delisted and things, and they've listed a few countries for it that I was surprised don't have access to PSN accounts. And then I did read that in Europe, some countries can't make a PSN account unless they buy a PS4 or PS5. Like, you can't just make a free one. You have to like
Right.
make it after purchasing a console. So like, sucks for that, and it seems like a weird decision. But that's why I don't think it was malicious, is because it doesn't feel like a smart decision. It feels like a weird, stupid one, which usually weird, stupid decisions mean someone just didn't think something through and thought of it based on like the US and then applied it everywhere.
Right. Yeah, it definitely seems like they didn't realize like, oh, we're not available in, a bunch of these countries.
Because like from the US perspective, if you're playing the game, it's kind of like, yeah, make the account, it's fine. But if you aren't familiar with everything everywhere else, then yeah, that makes sense that it would be confusing.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, hopefully they, they fix it or go back on or something. But yeah, some of the countries that they're not available in, it's like, really? It's like, okay, it's such a strange list. But anywho, we'll see how that goes. I'm sure it'll be a quick, hopefully a quick turnaround. But and yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it for the news. I know that Ubisoft finally has a release date for X Defiant. That's supposed to come out on the 21st of this month on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles. But yeah, I'm curious how that game will do. I mean, it was pretty popular and it's beta test, but there's been a lot of drama on the back end for the studio. So I'm curious what'll happen. Like, will it do well? Like a game like the Finals, especially, which has been out for a while, people really love that. I know it has hacker problems, but that's a popular one. But yeah, be curious to see how X Defiant does. All right, well, I think that's it for the news. Let me just double check, make sure I didn't have anything else saved news wise. All right, yeah, we can go ahead and jump into what we've been playing. Isli, you're out last week, and I can't remember if you were out the week before as well, but I know you had some family stuff, so maybe you didn't play much, but have you been playing anything since you've been back?
Went through and I played Ori and the Blind Forest, which I never played before somehow. I played part of it and then dropped it. So I went back and played through that game while I was traveling, which was I enjoyed it a lot.
On the Switch?
Yeah, on the Switch. I don't think it's my all-time favorite Metroidvania ever, just because I think the controls are a tiny bit clunky. But the art direction in that game is gorgeous, and the lighting in the game is gorgeous, and I really enjoy the storytelling. God, I'm blanking on the storytelling process they use. Environmental storytelling, and then they just have a lot of the story through pictures and images without text accompanying it, which I thought worked very well for that game. It's also just really cute. So I beat that, loved it. I would love to watch a playthrough of that game now with someone who does the One Life playthrough, because I have no idea how you do that in One Life. There are so many surprise motherfucker, and then surprise motherfucker deaths where you jump into the screen from off screen and something just swoops out of nowhere to kill you. Don't understand how you would ever do that, but it was a fun game. I liked it a lot. I do have some questions though. What were the differences between the definitive edition with the DLC and the original game? Did the original game have the skill tree?
Yeah, it did. I'm pretty sure it did.
The skill tree seemed like a weird addition to me, because it doesn't feel like any of the game is balanced around the skill tree, or that the skill tree is necessary for anything aside from making map exploration easier.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's kind of what it is. I feel like it's for speedruns, because there's a very specific set of skills I have a very specific set of skills. There's very specific builds for speedrunning and stuff like that, and you can kind of change it. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I'm pretty sure I played the original a little bit, but I never beat it, and then I beat the definitive one. I'm pretty sure the skill tree was in the original.
So I didn't upgrade any of the attack skills because it never seemed like it actually mattered, since most of the boss fights in the game are platforming. So your little wisp attack thing doesn't really matter for most fights, or you can just bounce an enemy attacks back at them, which does way more damage. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the game. It was a lot of fun. I cruised through it, so obviously I enjoyed it. And then after I beat that, I started playing Signalis, which is that 2D Blade Runner-esque horror game. but I'm not really far enough in that to give any opinion on it.
Yeah, that's what I was interested in. I think I was gonna I was looking at some stuff to play. I was like, should I pick up Signalis? And I had it on my radar for a bit to look at, and I think I didn't even add it to my wish list. I forgot to do that, but
it has great reviews. People love it as like a horror game. It seems like it's not Blade Runner. God, what was I'm blanking on the like Souls game in space thing, but it seems like it's like part Silent Hill, part Dead Space, part Soma. Soma's probably the closest comparison, actually. Like a 2D Switch version of Soma. But I started playing it and I'm enjoying it so far, but I'm only like half an hour in, and how much opinion can you really have on a horror game half an hour in?
Overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. I need to add this to my
what are you playing on? When it came out,
playing on Switch.
When it came out, a lot of people really, really liked it. So.
Yeah, because this was back in like end of 2022, so it's like I don't think I had either. I just got my laptop in Q4 of that year. I think it must have been either that or 2020. I forget when I bought my laptop. But yeah, so I was actually looking at a lot of stuff, and I forget if it came out on PlayStation as well, or if it was like one of those maybe PC first and then consoles later.
I don't think it came out at everything at the same time.
Yeah, Signalis. Well, it looks like it must have came out on. Okay, so it didn't come out on. It doesn't say PlayStation 5, so it was PS4 and Xbox One and Switch and Windows. But yeah, it must have been. I'm curious what else came around at that time that I just I skipped it at that moment. But yeah, I'll add it to my wish list. I mean, it's a cheap game. It's only $20. I'll give it a shot, play it. But so you started that, but you haven't gotten too far into it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is super spoilers, but like I feel like every horror game has like some hook in the beginning, and I've made it to like the hook part of the game. And that's about the extent I've got. So it's pretty early in the game, obviously, but it's interesting so far. It's slower paced at the moment. I don't know if it ever speeds up. I'll probably have more opinions on it next week, since I think that's going to be what I play next.
All right, cool. And what about you, Zaya? Have you been? I haven't seen you on Discord doing much.
That's because I got a new toy. I got a little a
Tamagotchi.
Yeah, I've just been playing in Tamagotchi all week. No, I got a little handheld like retro ROM console.
Oh, nice.
So I have been playing The Lion King all week.
Wait, a retro ROM console? Like, what did you get?
It's I'll put a picture in the Discord of it. It's like it's not a Mio. It's kind of like a I don't want to say knockoff. It's not like a knockoff Mio. It's just something similar. And it has where is my picture? It has I'm trying to remember everything that's on it. Like it has arcade games, like the Capcom arcade games. It has NES, Super NES, Genesis, Game Boy Advance. It doesn't have Atari, but it has like a side console kind of thing. It's just it's very, very cute, and it's very, very up my alley, and that's all I've been doing. Is I played a little bit of it has PlayStation 1 games too on it. So I played a little bit of Bloody Roar 2, and now I just want to play what was the one on
now you just want to play Lion King? Are you talking about the old 2D Lion King game where like you play as Simba in like a side scroller?
Yeah, the one on Genesis.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah.
The one that is difficult for people, apparently.
It's extremely difficult.
Isn't it really difficult though, just because the controls suck like something horrible?
The controls don't really suck. It's more just like everything is brutal. And it does a lot of damage to you. So it's like, which is funny because I own this game I own Lion King on Genesis, and I have a Genesis. I could play it, but I literally cannot beat that game. And because of this little console and save states, I have gotten the furthest in one playthrough than I have ever gotten before. But now I'm on like, I think the last level or second to last level, the Simba's Return. It's so fucking hard. It's just annoying. Like everything everything does damage to you and you can't do any damage to anything. It's just, but that's like, I feel like that's pretty standard for old games. Once I beat The Lion King, I'm going to play Aladdin, and I'm just very, very excited to play all these games that I own, but now I can take them with me on a tiny little screen and I can have save states and have more fun with it rather than just sitting in front of my CRT and banging my, retro controller against the floor because I can't fucking beat The Lion King.
Oh my god, I'm looking at the picture. That's just a Game Boy Color.
Yeah, it's cute.
Or
he got
pocket?
This one.
Pocket.
Michael got it for me because one of his friends got one, and he got me this one because it looks exactly like my Game Boy Color that I still have. It's the same color and everything, the translucent purple. So this is my new little toy.
The Aladdin for SNES.
The Genesis.
I think that's the same one. I think it was Genesis and SNES was the same one.
Yeah, I was looking at these.
Maybe it is Genesis only. Either way, I know which Aladdin game that is. That was a fun one too. Those are great.
I was looking at these handhelds a couple months ago. And I was like, I don't know why. I think it's just like it was an ad on like Instagram or something. But yeah, I was looking into because there's a couple different brands. So I was trying to see which one, because the R36S, like I think there's a previous version of it. And I was trying to see typically it's which ones. Sometimes one version's better, and one version might have better emulation than another one. And I don't know why I was even looking at it. I was like, oh, maybe I can just look at these, see a bunch of the old games on it. I was like, maybe get it for the kid. I don't know why I was I'm like, I'm not going to play any of these. Why am I watching reviews for them? I don't understand what I'm doing. But
no, it's just a Raspberry Pi is what it is. And the I guess the popular quote unquote brand name one is the Mio. That's usually the one that people get, and I know that there's a similar one called the Playdate, but that's kind of more of its own thing, and there's Playdate specific games.
Yeah, the Playdate's the one with the crank, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one's a weird one.
I watched somebody stream a game from that, and it looks very cute and fun, but I don't. It's one of those things that I want because it's a gimmick, and I don't know if I'd actually use it, but it looks very cute and fun.
I saw one of the Twitch streamers I watched got a Playdate and did segments on the Playdate, and the games are the 30-second type of games where the game loop is you do something for 30 seconds, die, and then repeat it with the crank.
Mm-hmm.
It looks interesting and it looks cute. I could never see that holding my attention for more than a few minutes, because it's not a game that you sit down and go through a story on. It's a game where you're doing they're flash games on it.
Right. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I think there's someone that came out recently on iOS where it's just an emulator, and it's you just can emulate a bunch of stuff on there. But I don't know how well that performs. Apparently it's pretty easy to do. I was listening to someone on a podcast talk about it, but we'll see how long that stays up on the store. But yeah.
Because there's stuff like that too for Android, mostly because you can sideload APKs on Android and stuff like that. So there's lots of emulators you can get and stuff, but it's just if I'm gonna do that, a lot of the pixel games that I would play on my phone, you can just buy in the store, like Final Fantasies and stuff like that, the pixel remasters. It's I would just get that. But for this, it's it's extra silly because a lot of the games that I'm playing, I own them. I could just go in my bedroom and play them. I just have to plug the console into our little CRT TV. But it's just, I can play it on my little handheld. I could play it at work. I could play The Lion King at work. How fun is that?
Isn't that always the argument, though, of piracy versus others, that people only pirate when the games are difficult to actually get elsewhere? If you could get all of those games conveniently on some form factor, you probably wouldn't. Switch allows you to do some.
If every Nintendo thing was on the eShop, it's then you just do it for convenience, not have to worry about whatever. It's they don't do that.
A preservation thing too. One of the things that I'm gonna do once I'm done replaying all of these childhood games that I could never beat as a child, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go get a Mother 3 ROM and see if I can put the fan translation patch on it and play it on this, because that never came to America, and I freaking love Earthbound. So it's I want to play this, and I want to play it myself. There's one streamer in particular that I really, really like. He loves Earthbound too. I could watch him play it, but I want to play it and experience it myself. So it's I could go watch it, but I want to play this. So I'm going to see if I can load that with the patch onto this little game console and have the time of my life for a couple weeks.
Yep. That'd be fun. Yeah, you have to tell me how it is. Maybe I'm sure I'll probably see pop in my feed now because we talked about it. And it's in Discord. The photo's now cached. It's gonna be like, all right. But,
every ad you get ever now is going to be for ROMs and the Mio
Little
probably.
ROM handhelds.
Yeah, I like their water enhancers, but yeah, so I've been playing a little bit more Fallout 76 on PC, which is interesting to go
private or public.
I'm public. I'm not renting a private server. I don't need to. I'll just play. I do think that maybe having a private server could potentially reduce some of the lag that there is, because there is like a lag where, especially when you shoot enemies, like there's a noticeable lag between the register and like the health dropping, because I do overshoot enemies quite a bit, because it's like I'm sure if I just waited a second, it would update and ping that, oh, they're dead. You killed them. But anyways, so it's like I feel like maybe that some of that can be reduced, but it's not like playing online. Especially, I hardly ever run into other people. I do like when it's like, oh, there's someone's camps nearby. They have some, the workbench, and I can scrap all this junk I got because I can't. I'm over encumbered, whatever. But yeah, it's not like it necessarily makes it that much crazier. But I do feel like you could potentially reduce some of that lag there. But it is interesting to go back and play it after I played it at launch. Especially story wise, because that after launch, a while later, they introduced like, oh, the Brotherhood of Steel come back or in the area. People came back to the region, like actual humans, because there were no human characters in the base game, because you're like, it's the first vault that opened up.
Weren't the only like interactable people or NPCs, weren't they all ghouls?
No, there weren't any ghouls in this region. There's the Scorched, which are like humans that have been poisoned or turned by something's its story reason. But
did they change the story? Like, is Fallout 76 is the premise with all of these updates adding the Brotherhood of Steel and humans, things like that like the game year has advanced, or is it they actually changed the story?
The story's still the same. So you're still like the overseer of the Vault 76 like left, and then you're going out to find them, and you're following the trail that they went on, and they learn pretty quick about the Scorched, what happened, and how to try to stop them. And that's kind of like they're trying to figure out a way to take care of this problem, so that way everybody in Vault 76 can come out and repopulate, like, and take over the area. And so from that perspective, I actually didn't mind not having human characters. There's plenty of robots, like robot vendors and other robot characters. There's like super mutants walking around, and there's the Scorched, who were human, so they still talk. They raspy voices and whatever. You can hear them, but you can't like trade with them and whatnot. But it's not like there aren't ways to interact with the world and do commerce and whatnot. But I kind of like that, because it's more like I feel like there's better. Fallout worked better in that environmental storytelling kind of way versus just having an NPC be like, hey, blah, 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 they're over here. Like, playing it in both versions, it definitely feels like I kind of consider, so like when you go out, you're following the holotapes from the Overseer. And it's kind of how you learn, like, oh, I went here, I found an old town, I went there, and then you find the logs, yada, yada. And you learn about this group of people that were called the Responders, who were there in Appalachia before the Overseer, or when the Overseer was out there. They came across some of them, but they had since, I forget how long it is between the Overseer going out there and you going out there. But the Responders were like just a group of civilians who like came together to essentially form like a fire, like an emergency department, right? They're like that's what they do. They're trying to help people out who were alive in the area and yada yada. But they eventually succumb to the Scorched and whatnot, and they all like, everybody's dead. So you've heard about the group called the Responders. You kind of do like this training. It teaches the player how to, like, boil water to make it clean, how to cook food, yada yada, and you hear about them. But now in the game, there's actually a group of Responders you can find, to where it's like, oh, they've kind of picked up that mantle of the people before them, and you can come across their like little base of operations and you can help them out. It's like, okay, that's interesting. So it's like you still can follow the trail of the Overseer, which is in like one direction. You hear about the Responders, and you can find out, oh yeah, the Responders are still a new group of them are over in this other spot. So that's interesting. And then having people actually back into the world. Like I went to this one point of interest where I'm like, when I went there, I could have swore I can't tell if it's a new place or if it's like a repurposed older point of interest that used to have super mutants there, because they do talk about like, oh, there used to be super mutants in this area, but like this group of like raiders, I forget what they call themselves, like they took over the area. I'm like, it's like, yeah, that makes sense, because like I guess if there was super mutants in the base game, but then these people came through and wiped them out to take over that spot, it's like, okay, that's interesting. And now you can see like the vertibirds of the Brotherhood is still like coming and like fighting regions, but then like I forgot how many different updates there were. So like I'm walking along at one point, and like I'm a little over encumbered, so I'm trying to get somewhere, and then I just see like these dudes walking. They look like little robots. It's like, oh, there's like little robot guys, and it's fucking aliens. And there's like these aliens they start attacking me. I'm like, where the hell did you guys come from? And then like they one guy threw a plasma grenade, and the shit like wiped me out in one hit, and I died. And I'm like, damn it. So like I went back and like, okay, I gotta take out these aliens. And like I fight the other aliens, and the other guy throws a plasma grenade from a different direction, kills me again. I'm like, damn it. And I'm like, okay, let's go back. And I finally killed them all. But I was just like, where the hell these aliens come from? I'm like, yeah, I guess they had some update where I forget what they called it, but like, yeah, because there's always aliens in the Fallout games, and like, oh yeah, now there's aliens in the Wasteland. There's like little public events which are like what are they called in FF14 when there's like an event where like everybody go fight the monsters, and
like a fate.
Is that what it is? Yeah. So it's like, go defend this place, from the Scorch, and like you go there, you do it, and you get a reward at the end for everybody who's helping out and whatnot, and a lot of them are like
aliens in 4.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite scenes is when it randomly, you come out one of the buildings later on, after you go to Diamond City and you progress further, you like exit a building, and then the alien ship just flies over the sky and crashes somewhere. And like, okay, it went that direction. I'm just going to walk that way until I find the alien spaceship.
I couldn't remember if that was 4 or 3 or New Vegas. Cause like one of them had the DLC where you get abducted.
Yeah. Mothership Zeta. That was 3. Yeah.
And then one of them had the crashing ship where you can go find it, and then you find like the alien weapon on the ship.
Yeah, he's in the alien's in the cave, it scurries off and you go and kill it. But yeah, the one thing so anytime you kill enemies, a lot of times they'll drop their weapons, but they never or hardly ever drop armor. So like unlike base Fallout games, like you kill someone, you get their gun, you get their ammo, and all their armor, you don't get any armor. So like finding armor, I feel like is super rare. And you can craft armor. I think that's how they want you to do it, like to craft in order to get better gear. But it's just so weird because I went back and played a little bit of 4, and it's just so odd. Be like, this guy clearly has armor. Just let me take it. Or like I don't always get the weapon. I'm like, just let me take the gun. But typically, more often than not, you do get the weapon that they're carrying. It's just the armor you don't. So that's always kind of a little frustrating thing, I guess, for balance purposes. I don't know. But yeah, the aliens threw me off. I was like, oh, there's aliens. But yeah, it is interesting to play and have humans, and like there's quest lines I'm doing. There's one because there's been so many updates, it's hard to tell. Like the update that has the quest line for the Brotherhood of Steel, you can tell which one that is, because like, oh, it's like a Brotherhood specific like expedition you go on. I think similar to like the Far Cry expeditions they introduced in New Dawn, and I'm like, okay, that's clearly that DLC. And then there was one where I was like, oh, you found an invitation, a flyer to go to some nightclub that someone set up, and you go there, and it's like, turns out like, oh, this person's sick, they need medicine, but you have to go to Atlantic City to get it. And I'm like, okay, this is that Atlantic City DLC. It's like, so I won't progress on this one. But like, I wish there was like a clear indicator that like, this is a DLC quest. And so either do it now or save it until later, because I kind of want to go through some of the base storyline and then some of the new content. Like, oh, I came across this new content, I'll do it here, but I don't want to do the DLC stuff just yet. So it is an interesting experience to play through the second time. Like I can't think of another game that would have. I guess that the only other example of that would be like when World of Warcraft had that DLC that just destroyed the whole world, Cataclysm, and it's like everything was different after that. Like that's the only other game I think of that could do that. I suppose 14 in a way too. Like you explored an area, but now that area is different because of the battles that took place. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you can never go back to Fallout as it was at launch. Because you'd have to update it because it's an online game. But
so maybe I missed that. But like, if 76, you were the first human leaving the vault, right?
Well, you weren't necessarily the first. It's like it's the first vault that it's the first one who has the reclamation day of the other vaults. Like every other vault, like it's the first one that goes out. Like they have the earliest reclamation day.
Okay, so it's the earliest vault reclamation day, so there would still be other humans. Okay, I got you. Do you ever actually explore other vaults in 76?
Yeah, there are other vaults. Yeah, I came across one. I don't remember if this vault was there from the start. I think there might have been some DLC vaults, or like not DLC vaults, but like added vaults later. Because I don't remember this vault I came across because it was like it's being run by an AI, and I think it's like vault. I forget what the vault number is. It might be Vault 5, but I don't recall this vault at all. And like I went around and it's like, okay, but anyways, it doesn't matter. But I don't remember that vault. And it's kind of one of the DLCs they added, or one of the extra. I stopped calling it DLC because it's just like extra content. Like one of the extra contents they added was like I forget what they call them. I think it's like not bunkers. I'm just gonna call them shelters. Like they added shelters. So essentially, it's like those garages you make in Death Stranding, where Sam can like just build a garage and go down into it, and there's a little room and rest. But it's like a Fallout shelter where you can just build a little hatch at your camp and go down. You have this underground base you can build and design your own way. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And that was a free thing they added. And I found that place and like, oh, I got this now. So if I want to build an underground little shelter, I can. And then, yeah, the extra having humans around, like you can send some back to your camp. And I came across this one person's like, oh, I was an astronaut. And then like my ship crashed. And I'm like, you're an astronaut, really? But then like, yeah, there was a ship that crashed and I'm helping them out with some stuff and yada, yada. So I'm curious how that story is going to go. Sounds like they were up in space, maybe frozen on a mission, and then they came back and the world was just messed up. I'm like, that could be interesting. But yeah, it is interesting to come, because I remember all the base storyline in the vanilla version, like what happens, like why the Scorched are there, what you do as the player, yada yada. So I'm like, so from that sense, it's like, okay, in the vanilla game, sort of like you kind of quote unquote fix the Scorched problem. And so it's like, okay, that makes sense. Like you fix it, and now people can come back to Appalachia, and then now that's why there's people here. But they can't get rid of the Scorched entirely.
When does your son and or father disappear and you have to go off and find them?
Nah, and it's just the Overseer.
But that's Fallout. Is the Overseer secretly your father?
No, they're unrelated. But yeah, it's always like someone leaves and you go and find them, and you're looking for the Overseer. But yeah, it's a fine time. Like I said, it's outside of the lag, and I had some weird visual artifacting in like the swamp region I went to, where like weird visual stuff. I don't know if it's like PC exclusive or whatnot, but that was just strange. But anyways.
God, was Fallout 76 free?
No, you had to pay for it.
God, I just logged into my app and it says I've purchased it, and I'm like, I don't think I ever purchased it.
Surprise!
I'm genuinely curious now.
Was it
for PS4? I think it was free for PS4.
I was gonna say, was it on
like PS Plus?
Yeah, PS Plus games at some point or something.
Yeah,
maybe
it must have been. I have it. So
I could see that happening like early on when it wasn't doing well. So like, hey, let's put it on the PlayStation Plus catalog and like Xbox, catalog or whatever. Like maybe they did that. But
Atlantic City DLC is expensive. All the DLC is expensive. Wow, it's $30 for the DLC. That better be great DLC.
Yeah, that's right. Because when I picked it on PC, it was like super cheap. And I think it was the like complete edition, so I was like, okay, just everything's here. But anyway, yeah, it's fun. I think it would be fun to play through co-op, because there's like all the charisma cards are essentially co-op cards. Like all the cards you can get that have charisma, they all help when you're a team. And I wouldn't mind doing like a build where it's like it's the charisma build, so I'm like helping out the teammates. Like, oh, if you're in a party, all your stim packs do 50% more health, or all your teammates do this. I kind of like doing that. But I don't play it. When I played vanilla, like that was fun to do, but not playing that way now. So, yeah, it's not bad. Fun times, especially for how cheap it was. And then I was looking for another game to play, and I'm going to share a link in Discord, or a picture in Discord. But like I was like, oh, that game Forever Skies. I was like, when does 1.0 come out for that game? We talked about it a while ago. So I Googled it, and I got Google hit me with this thing. I'm like, came out April 10th. I was like, whoa, April 10th. I was like, damn, it came out. I didn't even realize it. And then I read the body. It's like Forever Skies out now, Planet Crafter 1.0 release announcement. So it's a tweet that's from the Forever Skies team saying that Planet Crafter had their 1.0 release, which happened on April 10th. But I was like, why would you default this as the SEO number one spot? Like, this isn't their 1.0 release. That's not happening until later this year. So I got so mad because I got excited and I looked, it's like, no, it's early access. It's like, what the hell? And I click on it, like, oh, it's what a shitty Google result talking about an entirely different game. But so yeah, that's not out. So that pissed me off. But I ended up picking up Viewfinder, played that. I think it was a short game. I think I beat it in like 3.5 hours. Mm-hmm. Great game. Really enjoyed it. I love there's like this AI cat, because like you're in like a simulator.
What type of game is it? I haven't heard about it or watched it.
It's a puzzle game, kind of like in the vein of like a Portal, where it's like you line up pictures. Eventually you get a camera and like you can take a picture of something, and then if you hold up that picture and place it down, like whatever that picture was, like overrides whatever was in the world like instantly. So like and it's like they build puzzles all around that. Very Portal like and like Superliminal style kind of.
I was gonna say very similar to Superliminal.
Yeah, really good. Great game. I'm surprised it works so well. But like the conceit is like you're in like a simulation. That's why it's working. It's not like you're in the real world. So there's like this AI cat companion at one point. And he's like, oh, this puzzle's kind of difficult. And I finished it in like 2 seconds. And I'm like, suck it, you stupid cat. Like, I'm going to sight read the shit out of all these puzzles. But
you're just a cat. You can't do puzzles.
Yeah. But like, it's funny because like, you know, if you're really good at that kind of stuff and like you got kind of like we talked before, like that gamer sense, like you could sight read a lot of this stuff like super easy. So there were a lot of puzzles like, yeah, it was simple to solve, but it was still fun to do it. Mm-hmm. I did have one puzzle that tripped me up like a lot because they introduced a new mechanic, but they didn't have you do enough of that new, not necessarily mechanic, but like we'll call it like a restraint, like a limitation rather. Like there was we're going to introduce this new limitation. Yeah, you have to work around. But they didn't give me enough of it before like this one puzzle to where like I just couldn't wrap my head around how to solve it. And I was like, I can't figure out how to do this dang puzzle. And then like, I guess if you take too long, I think it's like a time limit. It's like, oh, you can ask for a hint. I'm like, I couldn't. I was like, hint. And it's like, oh, this. And it doesn't like outright tell you the solution, but it just says something. And I'm like, immediately once it said, I'm like, okay, I know what I have to do. And then I quickly solved it. But like that one puzzle gave me a lot of trouble. And then there was one where it was like, there was a section where they had a lot of the Superliminal style puzzles, but the way the game does it is like oh, here's a hallway that leads to a door. And like, as you go down, once you cross a certain like threshold as the character, then it changes that actual 3D map into a picture, and you can kind of see it happen. And it's like, okay, I can't go this way because it's doing that Superliminal thing to me. And then there was a bit where it's like, oh, there's a battery, and like a lot of the puzzles require needing a battery to charge the gate to leave the area. It's like, there's a battery, and as soon as I go up to the battery, it converts itself into a picture around like this cylinder. And it was like, okay, how do I get this battery? And like trying to solve that puzzle, I did it, but it was like just kind of annoying because like, again, it was early on when they introduced this first mechanic, and I'm like, okay, I solved it, but I was a little frustrated. Like I'm not happy with the way you did this one. But I'm trying to look at my notes here. Yeah, battery becomes illusion. Yeah, and then the solution for that one, I was so weird. I was like, okay, I guess this is the solution here. But and then I had one puzzle where it was later on with like a ton of these limitations added on, and I solved it purely by, not like by accident, but kind of by accident. I was just messing around, and like I was like, oh my God. I was like, why didn't I think to do this earlier? But the thing was, because what you do, which you have, I'm trying to think of a way not to spoil how the solve it, but it's like what you do to solve it isn't something you've ever done purposefully with a specific object. Mm-hmm. Like you've done it with the environment, but you've never done it with an object before. And it's the only one in the entire game where you do it with an object. So that's why like it never occurred to me like, oh, do this. Like it should have, like once I saw, I'm like, oh, duh, I should have figured this out earlier, but you've never done it before. And then there were no more puzzles like that one where the solution was to do that thing ever again. And so I was like, that was a little frustrating. And then the only other gripe I have with the game is the final run, the gauntlet you do It's very similar to the Witness, where you have like a time limit to finish it. Now that was just an optional area in the Witness to do that gauntlet. But the problem I have with the gauntlet in this game is you have to fail the first time, because like in the Witness, and you platinum the Witness, right, Isli?
Yeah. You're talking about the gauntlet at the very end that's like the timed randomizer?
Yeah, but the puzzles are like, you've done these puzzles, and now the puzzles might change, but it's always the same puzzle in that first part, in the second part on the pillars. It's the same style, it might just be different. So that's what's random. So you can't know that, but you already know how to do those puzzles. In Viewfinder, there's stuff where like it seeds some things early on, and I kind of caught on to that sort of, not by accident, but like, oh, they're giving me this, I'm going to take this in case I need it for later. And it's like, you do need it for later. But then like at the very end, it's also like you can't beat it on the first run unless you know to do like take something. Essentially, it's like when you have your camera, a lot of the puzzles are like, oh, you're allowed to take like 5 pictures.
You get a hint at the end that tells you how to beat something that you.
It's not even a hint. It's just like, it's more like I can't get past this obstacle unless I purposefully took an extra picture of something else in an earlier section of the gauntlet. And so it's like frustrating in that way. It's like, oh, well, why this is dumb, because now I just have to wait for the timer to fail and then go back and make sure I grab it. Now, which is funny because like in doing that, there was like an object that has a mechanic to it. I'm like, that's so weird that this object is here. So then on my rerun, I like took a picture of it. I'm like, because I'm going to save this object for later. And like, yeah, it helped me like speed through it. So I guess if there's a speed run version of the gauntlet, like trophy wise, like that could be helpful. But then I was like, I know what I need to do in order to get past this last obstacle. So I have to get back to that point again, do it. It is a fun game to watch, like someone else play and see how they solve it. But it can make it kind of frustrating, especially if you sight read the puzzle quickly. Like there's this one limitation or mechanic they add later on where like you have to flip a switch that powers up the gate, and the switch is like connected by a glass tube with like a cable running through it. Now, if you take a picture of an object that has the glass tube and put it down, you can't take the picture of the other side and then perfectly line it up. It'll just break the cable. So it's like one puzzle where I thought like, oh, I'll take a picture of the thing because they're kind of far apart and like put them together shorter. And like that couldn't work. But then the person I watched later like tried the exact same thing. And then my solution was like, oh, I'll do this thing to do it. And like they kind of thought of the same thing, but they did it like the hardest way possible to get to the same solution. So it's just really kind of funny to see that kind of stuff. But yeah, great game though. I'd say definitely give it a shot. Really fun. I really liked it. Again, outside of the small gripes I have, it's just, I do wish it was kind of longer. That's my only thing. I was like, man, I could use a couple more puzzles here. Cause like, you know, especially if you're like, if they had optional, like more difficult ones, I suppose that'd be kind of fun. But yeah, it was a great game. Again, pretty short. You can beat it in like 4 hours or less, but good times. And then, yeah, outside of Viewfinder, I picked up Liza P. It was on sale for PlayStation Plus members. I started playing that.
Oh, yeah, I saw you on that on Discord.
Stalking me on Discord.
How are you liking that so far? I haven't actually played that yet, so I'm super curious.
Yeah, I'm really liking it. It definitely feels like Bloodborne. It has a lot of the comforts you kind of want. Like it has like its own version of like a homeward bone, but you don't lose your souls or echoes when you go back to home base. Like you still keep them, unlike, you know, in the Souls games. It has the fast travel, like kind of like well, not the same as like Elden Ring, but like you know, from a lantern. So like you go to the teleport spot and you can go anywhere you want. And it also is nice if you have like a side quest that you do, and like, oh, someone's like, lady's like, oh, I want you to find my kid, yada yada, and then I find like the doll that was the kid's, and then it's like, I'm like, oh, I got to go back and talk to that lady, make sure I turn in the side quest. And it tells you like in the list of like locations you can teleport to, there's like an icon of the doll I found next to the spot. Like this is the closest like spawn point that you can get to that character's like in this area is that side quest you need to turn in. So I'm like, I really like that. It kind of tells you like, hey, this is where it is, instead of having to try to remember exactly where you need to go. So I like that little comfort there.
Is it filling that Bloodborne itch for you?
I suppose, yeah, because I really like it. It's fun. It feels very more Sekiro because like the way the block mechanic works. Because you don't like if you perfect block, you don't like riposte them or anything, like, you know, be able to attack them. What you do is you just typically when you block, you still take a little bit of damage, but it has that Bloodborne mechanic of you lose some health, but you have an opportunity to attack to get that health back. But so do the enemies. But so it's like, okay, now if you perfect block, you just take no damage at all. Their weapon takes damage. And then on normal enemies, you can like disarm them, like their weapon can break. It does have a weapon durability mechanic that's your weapon will degrade over time as you use it. You can repair it, but like if you go too long, it will break and you have to fix it. You do have repair kits that you can get. You get a ton of the co-op crystal you need at boss fights. I was like, why do you give me so many of these? I'm just gonna have to sell them because I'm not going to use summon anybody for a boss fight. But you get a ton of those. Weight is super important in this game than any other Souls game. Like I was curious, is like I wanted to make sure, like I played for a while, done like a couple bosses. I'm like, okay, I want to make sure I don't like, you know, screw up my stats. So I'm like, okay, can you respec? And it's like, oh, you can respec, but it's like after you fight like the 7th boss, you get the ability to. I'm like, okay, that's kind of far away, like the 7th main boss. I'm like, all right, that's kind of far. I'm curious, like, let's just see what people kind of say, like, hey, good stat spread, you know, because I kind of know, like, if I'm using this weapon, level up the stat that goes with it, yada yada, like any Souls game. But then a lot of people are like, oh, your carrying capacity is like number 1, like do that, because the way the game works is like every time you find gear, it's always like outside of like weapons, like typically any like equipment you find is always better than what you have, but it weighs more. And like I guess people are saying like after a certain point, like the weight increase of new gear shoots up pretty quick, because like the amulets you can find and you get from bosses, like those become heavier and heavier. It's like, oh, you need to have a heavy carrying capacity in order to equip that stuff, which is the most important on your first run. Like, oh, I got up to like 40 on my carrying, and then I took like vigor to, you know, 20 and whatever your attack stat is, yada yada. So I'm like, okay, I'll start diverting points into my carrying capacity. It's not an issue yet, but apparently it's going to be an issue. But so that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, I saw again. So like Sekiro, so like if you fight a boss that has like, you know, 5 attacks in a row, you gotta like perfect. I mean, you don't have to perfect block. Like you can just block, you'll just take damage. But then if they do like the like red attack, it's like it's an attack that you can't dodge or block, but you can perfect block it. And then if you just perfect block, it's like then you're good. And then they have this. They do have like a stagger thing where it's like, oh, if you attack a boss enough, there's like a stagger meter behind the scenes that eventually will get up there, and then like their health bar flashes white. And if you do a heavy attack, like a charged heavy attack, it puts them into that down state like Bloodborne, and you run up like to their, you know, head or whatever, and then you just hit R1 and you do like whatever big attack you do, and like there's that mechanic. But then you got to be careful you time your heavy attack just right. I do like the way they allow you to customize your weapons. So like I started off like the sword, and then later on I found like a police baton. But you can, the weapon and the handles are 2 different components. So you can combine different like blades with different handles, and they give you like different stuff. It's like, oh, the blade will give you your base R1 attack will still be the blade, but your heavy attack will be different. So like the heavy attack from the baton, I like a lot better from the baton handle. I like a lot better than the sword handle. So like when I mix those together, I was like, oh, this is great. Because now it's a much easier heavy attack to do against an enemy that I want to, you know, stagger essentially. It did have a bit where like I'm running around and Jiminy Cricket is like a AI little robot on your belt or whatever. They call him Gemini. Sorry, not Jiminy, but Gemini. And like I'm running around, and all of a sudden like this red butterfly appears, and the game's like, he's like, oh, I'm sensing a weird. Gemini's like, I'm sensing like a weird. What was he say? Like a increase in ergo in the area, and yada, and this red butterfly appears and it starts flying off. I'm like, oh, I guess I follow it and it's going to lead to like a secret. It's like I followed across the rooftops, and then it just disappears, and then a menu pops up, says, oh, make sure you attack the red butterflies so you get rare materials. So it's like, why didn't you tell me this when the red butterfly appeared the first time? Like, this is the crystal lizard, why didn't you say that? But luckily when I went back to the area later, I forget why, like maybe I died further on or something. The red butterfly was back again, so I just killed it. So I was like, oh, thank God. I was like, why
the
would
game
you
just
tell me?
assumes you're gonna attack everything and you're like
Right.
following it.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't realize this was going to be a crystal lizard, man. I just thought it was a butterfly that was going to show me some secret location. But yeah, there's that. They did this interesting thing where like there's a lot of like heavy enemies that you can find that when you kill them, they don't respawn. So that's an interesting. It's like the first time you go through an area, it might be like a heavy, and then you take them out and they don't come back in. There's a lot of mini bosses too, which is interesting. I feel like so far a lot of the humans I come across are mini bosses. But yeah, I like the block mechanics. A lot of fun. Again, just getting that perfect block timing down, and then just attacking it. Yeah, it's a fun game. I'm again not super far. I'm at the factory. I'm at the factory boss. I forget the dude's name, but yeah, it's curious about there's heavy emphasis on story in this versus like other Souls games. I guess more in line with like Sekiro. Like there's Ergo's a thing. You can learn about where Ergo came from and how they use it to make the puppets. And then there's like a petrification disease going around where it's like all the humans are slowly being petrified somehow. They're not sure how to fix it. And of course, all the puppets have started attacking people randomly one day and they don't know why. And they're like, oh, we think maybe there's like a puppet king and yada, yada that could be there. But that means they would have a mind of their own to be more human-like. And that's impossible. And they have their own, laws of robotics like Asimov, except there's a fourth one, like a puppet cannot lie, but then like you can lie as the main character, even though the loading screen says now lying and like it loads up to 100%. But like, I'm not sure how that's going to play in mechanically. Cause there's a bit where like, you have to get to this hotel, but like the hotel security manager is like, are you a puppet or a human? And it's like you lie and say you're a human. It's like, all right, puppets can't lie, so you can come on in. But then it says like you feel your gears like twisting or whatever. So it's like clearly something's happening to the main character as they keep lying. But I'm like, you have to lie to progress in this. So I'm like, okay, are there going to be like options to lie or not lie? Like you can lie to the lady when I give her the puppet. You could be like, yeah, that's your kid.
Forced lying just to tell the story that they want to tell.
Yeah, but again, it's optional with this lady on the side quest where like you give her the puppet and she's like, "Oh, it's so good to see you, darling." Like she's delusional and thinks the puppet is her kid or whatever, and not actually. And you could say like, "That's a puppet, lady," or you could say like, "Yeah, that's your daughter."
You're insane.
And I say like, "Yeah, that's your daughter," and then like it does like a grindy gear sound or whatever. But
I wonder if it's more like you have to balance between optional and required lying. Like there's a certain amount that's required, but if you do too many optional ones, it has an effect or something.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fun. Very Bloodborne with the finding shortcuts to lead back to other areas and yada yada, this and that. There is this thing mechanic where it's like the puppets talk, but you can't understand what they're saying. And I think you can only understand it after you've beaten the game. So on New Game Plus, you can actually understand what they're saying, but I'm not sure like.
Yeah, that was the same from the demo. Does it in the main game? So in the demo, you could like sort of understand them. Like what they said, if you were listening or really paying attention, you can figure out what they're saying. Is it the same in the main game or have they made it like an actual different language?
I don't know. I whenever the bosses talk, I'm not really paying attention. I'm more like watching them and making sure, like, okay, when are they going to attack? Yada yada.
Like, I turned on subtitles in the demo, and when the subtitles are on and you can visually see it, you're like, oh, I know what you're actually saying.
Oh no, when the subtitles are on in the game, like you can't read the subtitles. Okay. Like it's broken. Like clearly, either as you go along in the game or on New Game Plus, like you can actually read the subtitles later. So it's like obviously a lore thing. I'm sure it's like NG Plus, like if you really aren't that invested into the world, like, oh, if you play it again, now you get extra, like maybe whoever's like either the puppets can talk or they're relaying a message from someone. Like I kind of know some stuff because I watched NL Northernlion play it, but I wasn't really paying attention to like what was happening because he was like kind of, giving the banter and doing some boss fights. So I'm familiar with some fights that are going to happen, but, and I know like, okay, I know, this person's going to be a boss fight later, yada, yada. But I don't know what that means from the story wise. So like the mystery of what's happening with the puppets, what's up with the Ergo, and the alchemists have been like cutting it to make it not as pure anymore and yada, yada. So like, okay, where's it go wrong? This and that. So I'm curious how that'll that'll play out. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. Fun times. Like I said, it definitely feels it's filling that Souls itch. Like I was always kind of worried. We talked about before, like playing Souls likes and not really wanting to if it's a base one, because I feel like I'll kind of miss what makes the Souls games. But I'm really enjoying Lies of P so far. But yeah, that's all I've been playing. I'll probably just keep playing Lies of P. And then oh man, so I have my PS4 Pro set up in the bedroom with the TV. So like my little one's, in there with his mom. He can watch, TV, whatever. But I always forget. So I have it like I bought a wall mount for it. But unfortunately, like the wall mount, they don't make mounts, I don't think, that can like make it face to the right. They all face like to the left for some reason. I don't know why. So I'm like, okay, I can put it on the left side of the wall, but that's like also where a light switch is. So I'm like, okay, clearly there's going to be some electrical cables there. I'll probably have to, stud finder the cables, make sure I don't put it into a bad spot, yada, yada. I'm like, I'll get to that. So right now it's kind of sitting sideways on the top of the dresser because there's not a whole lot of space. Like there was for the base PS4, but not the PS4 Pro because it's bigger. So I always forget that the button isn't a push button, or it's not a hold up button. It's a push button, like on the PS4 Pro. So anytime I reach to go turn off the PS4, I'm always trying to click it up into the case and not just into the case. And it throws me off every time. Like just I don't use it regularly. I'm like, oh yeah, this isn't like, you don't push up, you just push it in. So I keep trying to lift it up instead of pull it in. So each time it throws me off. And that shit gets warm, man. I'm like, this thing either A, needs to be cleaned, or it's old, I guess. But it's like it's so much warm air coming out the back of that thing. Anyways, all right. Well, go ahead and wrap it up there. Hopefully, it gets more Liza P and Isli can play some more Signalis.
Or apparently get Fallout 76 since I already own it.
Oh yeah, do that, and we can play together and whatnot. But all right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap up there. So thank you all for tuning in, listen. Thank you, Isli. Thank you, Zai, for joining.
Yep.
And we'll see you all next time.
Later.
Bye.